くぞジェノサイカッタ
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Forgo, and today I'm going to show you something pretty cool with Dizzy. Now, something about Dizzy that really doesn't get a lot of notoriety is the fact that she has multiple dots. And what this allows you to be able to do with a character like this is you can actually build her a multitude of different ways, especially since the dot explosion that the character has is the exact same. Whether you do her burn or whether you do her chill, right? If you do her chill, it's 30% of attack every 1 second, right? If you do her burn, it's 30% of attack every 1 second. And then her dot explosion is 4.5 times, no matter whether it's the burn or the chill. So the character has a lot of versatility as far as how you can actually build her, which is something that's pretty damn cool. And because of that, you can actually scale her damage up in a multitude of different ways. Now, I want to make a correction that I said in the last video. In the last video, I said there was a really awesome set for the Guilty Gear characters, and I actually put my finger on this one right here. This card is awesome, but it's only for SS characters, so it will apply to Dizzy and it will apply to Baiken, but it's not going to apply to Ino and Ramlethal and Mei. So that was a mistake that I made in the last video, so my apologies for that one. But as far as card sets you could use, I mean, obviously you got this set here, this card is amazing. It adds an insane amount of CP. People are always asking how you add a lot of CP. Cards with critical rate, critical damage, increased attack, these cards add insane amount of CP, especially for the Guilty Gear fighters. I mean, this card is bonkers. The problem with this card is it doesn't have cooldown. Now, in certain game modes where you have a CP requirement, this is going to be a godly card. Like Halls of Elements, this is going to be a godly card. Then you have a card like this here, but this only applies to SS fighters, right? But it increases your critical damage and also gives you a decreased skill cooldown. Very, very good card. Now, with the set that we're going to be using today, really you're going to want as much critical rate as possible. You want as much critical rate as you can get to really make this work. So we're actually going to be using this card right here, just like I did in yesterday's video with Baiken. I mean, honestly, man, these cards here were so good during the Intama collaboration. You don't need the card, but it definitely is a plus because you're getting that extra 1.7% critical rate and you're going to get the decreased skill cooldown by 1.9 seconds instead of 1.2 seconds. It allows you to be able to spam through your skills much faster. And the other thing about this is you can actually throw in some option cards to actually scale Dizzy's damage if you actually really wanted to. So if we go to the Shingo card here, if I can find it really quick, the Shingo card is actually pretty awesome because it actually increases your attack, but it also has a 30% chance to deal burn damage equal to 40% of attack upon landing an active skill, right? So critical rate's not really so important for this one unless it's actually on Shingo, but for someone like Dizzy, this is just going to scale her burn damage. So if you have this on her and you're doing her burn explosion, you do your first skill twice, and then second skill, and then the third skill, and get your burn explosion on the third skill, it's going to do more damage because you're applying more burn. It's actually quite nice. And also, as far as another option card that would be really insane on this character, would be the Zhongfei card, if I can find that damn thing. Oh, and this card right here, this actually increases your critical rate, which is insanely good by 4%, your critical damage, and your burn and darkness. This is another great card for her because, again, it's going to scale her burn damage up something fierce. So her burn explosion is actually going to go up even more. And whenever you have cards that are scaling a certain damage, like scaling a certain dot, like burn, then you're going to want to do your burn explosion more often unless you don't want to remove your burn in a certain game mode, like hard mode against Omega Rugal in Guild Raid. But if you if you're not worried about removing a dot, then actually applying burn explosion every time would actually be a really good thing. And let me see if I can find that card really quick here. There it is right there. Now this card is actually insane because, you know, she does have chill, right? And this thing increases her critical rate, but she also have 50% chance to deal chill damage equal to 140% of attack to the target upon landing a critical hit, right? So the more critical hit or critical rate that you have, the higher chance you're going to have of actually doing this. And this is going to scale her chill explosion to the roof. This card will be absolutely nuts on this character. Just crazy, right? And unfortunately, her Special effect here only applies to Halloween Fighters, so that's not going to apply to Dizzy. But that critical rate and that chill damage is just nuts on her. So those are a couple ways that you can actually scale her damage up quite a bit. Now, as far as how you build her, it really depends on what you guys prefer. You know, I actually opted just to go with the Guilty Gear sets here. I mean, the first stone that increases blast skills is actually insane for her because most of her skills are blast skills. The second one increases double attack and then the critical damage by 25%. Really good one because, like, especially with what we're going to be doing today, we're going to have a card set that's going to add a lot of critical rate. Having a card set that adds a lot of critical rate means you're going to do a lot more critical hits. Therefore, what that means is the more critical damage that you have, the harder she's going to hit more often, right? She's going to hit like a truck a whole lot more often. Dizzy does a lot of hits from her first skill. That thing does a lot of hits, and actually her second skill does quite a few hits as well. And then her third one gives her a double attack, and then it also gives the increased active skill damage. Now, there are other SS stones that increase blast skill damage, and those would actually be better, but a lot of players don't have those things, so we're just going to go with these. And then I opted to go with 2 chill stones with the moon and star. Both attack and increase your chill damage by 10%. Now, you can go with burn if you really want to, but the reason I chose chill is because she has chill in her core, right? And having this chill in her core, it's just going to synergize so much with her chill. And for what we're going to be doing today, right, we're not going to be worried about removing chill or removing burn. And really, in most of the game modes, you don't have to worry about removing chill. I mean, yeah, you got like a certain immortal dungeons like Immortal Typhon that you do need chill, but I'm not really too worried about it, to be perfectly honest, especially on my account where I have other characters that can easily do that thing where purple actually have the advantage. But even if you are applying chill explosion, you're still going to do insane. These characters are just so strong. It really isn't going to make that big a difference. You know, of course, your 30% PG rate is awesome. And then another thing about having a lot of critical rate on this character is her increased damage by 18% on a critical hit, right? And, you know, the 8% blast skill damage increase is awesome. The 3.2% critical rate increase is wonderful for the character. Obviously, if you have the Guilty Gear set, just like I said in the biking video, you're going to do insane. She's going to do so good with that set because you get the extra critical rate by 7%. And, you know, she does have the reset first skill right here, which is massive for this character. And then you have the decreased active skill cooldown by 1 second upon landing attack on a burned or chill target. Now, the important thing about this is whenever you play with Dizzy, especially whenever you don't have a certain cooldown card, like say you only have 1 cooldown card, that means that your active skills are going to take longer to get on the cooldown. But because of her core passive here, as long as you've got a dot applied, whether it's her chill or her burn, as long as you're hitting your basic attacks, you're going to decrease the skill cooldown of her active skills. And you'll see me do it. It's actually quite nuts. And that's something that's awesome about Dizzy. You know, having the double dot explosion, but also the fact that this decreased skill cooldown by 1 second just makes her OP as hell. Because what it means is you can actually keep her hyper arm up all the time. You can literally hit her one skill like one time. Don't hit her second skill because that would apply a dot explosion. That would remove the chill. And then go into the third skill to get her attack buff. Right? And since the dot is still applied, as long as you don't use your second skill, if you're just using your first skill once, you're going to have this decreased skill cooldown by 1 second. If you apply burn, you hit the first skill twice, and then you hit the second skill, which is chill explosion. The third skill will do burn explosion. The third skill will remove it, but again, your first skill will get reset. And you could hit the first skill twice and apply burn, and then just go through, hit your active skills a whole bunch of times and lower the cooldown so you can keep your hyper amp all the time. Or you can just hit the first skill one time and apply chill and do the same thing. So, I mean, she's got a lot of versatility in how she plays. And then, of course, her increased attack by 7%. That stacks at 5. That goes up to 35%. That's just nuts. Plus the extra penetration. I mean, and she does have a decreased damage received by 70%. But she doesn't have an immunity core, which is a bit of a bummer. And she does have this PvP shield. I really, really wish her and Baiken would have got the shield that actually works in PvE. It would have made them so much better. I mean, I know they're OP as hell as it is, but really, it wouldn't have hurt anything. Honestly, I mean, it would have made them so much better because, I mean, as strong as Dizzy is, if that decreased damage received is on a cooldown, she will take a tremendous amount of damage if Geese does his Raging Storm. Just tremendous. I do almost have max capsules. I actually ran out of capsules. Oh, by the way, her leadership is just nuts because it's self-buffing, increased bounce type fighters attack by 60%, decreased HP by 5%. That's just massive for a character like this. And then, of course, you know, we talked about the first skill. The first skill gives her the hyper armor. You hit it one time, you get chill. You hit it twice, you get burn. And both of the skills do an insane amount of hits. And that's something to keep in mind whenever you're trying to break the meter. It's also something to keep in mind when you're trying to do more critical hits. The more hits you do, the more critical hits you're actually going to do. The higher the chance are is you're going to do more critical hits. And then her second skill, you know, of course, the dot explosion, right, is just awesome. And then her third skill, you know, with the burn explosion, with the attack. So whenever you're playing this character, you know, it really depends on how you have her built, depends on how you're actually going to play her. If you got a bunch of chill damage stones on her, you really want to be using the chill explosion. Like if you're playing her in Guild Raid, you want to use the chill explosion whenever the meter is broke in Guild Raid. If the meter isn't broke, because you're going to have like a long cooldown, if you're using just one option card with cooldown, you want to keep a dot applied. So that way you always have the decreased skill cooldown. That's something you should always keep in mind whenever you're playing with this character. Now, this is where it gets really cool. The card set. Look what I'm using today. So we're using the Shermie option card because this thing actually increases her attack speed. She's going to be able to rotate through her skills a little bit faster, but it also deals shock damage equal to 8% of attack to the enemy upon landing a critical hit on an active skill, which is awesome. So even though we don't have shock, we can actually apply shock to the target. Now, the thing is, just like I said a second ago, she's going to be losing cooldown because of this. But because of the decreased skill cooldown from her core passive, as long as you have a dot applied, whether it's the burn or chill, you can still decrease the skill cooldown by using your basic attacks. And then, of course, we got the Yantama option card. Now, the Mad Tea Party set is actually quite nuts because you do get an increased attack. You don't get as much attack like as you would from the Tekken set, but you do get this insane buff right here, where increases critical rate by 8%. That is crazy, and deals an additional damage equal to 220% of attack upon landing a critical hit. That is nuts, guys. So she's gaining an extra 8% critical rate. She's got 3.2% critical rate in her kit already, so she's going to be 11.2% critical rate. And with that Yantama card, it's actually going to jump her up to around, what, 13%, somewhere around there, critical rate. And that is massive, you know. Now, the Mad Tea Party set, the first card gives critical attack. The second card gives critical rate. So here's another 2% critical rate. Another reason why this card set's so good. And then the third card just gives her some more critical damage. So it's going to allow her to hit even harder, right? And by the way, I tested the Tekken set versus the Mad Tea Party set against Guild Raid. And the Mad Tea Party set outperformed it. It actually did a whole lot better because of the increased attack by 220%. Now, as far as her 3PGs, I do have the 3PGs that have increased attack by 2%, and then the other one actually has increased active skill damage by 4.5%. If this would be increased critical damage, her CP would actually be higher, and it would always be applicable every time you're doing critical hits. Whereas with active skills, this is only buffing her up when you're actually running through your active skills. That is something to keep in mind whenever you're going to watch this run. Her build is completely, I mean, she's fully maxed out. And again, you know, if you want more burn explosion, just give her burn stones. If you want more chill explosion, just give her chill stones. Again, I opted to go with chill because she has the chill explosion. And in Guild Raid, I got to tell you guys, even with the Mad Tea Party set, she did pretty freaking nuts. With her kit. Now we're going to be using Baiken as a support because Baiken will give her a heal, and sometimes Dizzy will take some damage. Maybe the darkness is going to be lying on the ground, and again, she doesn't have no immunity cord. Her shield isn't going to come into effect whenever you're playing against or playing in PvE. So having a heal is actually really nice, and this increased attack and PG rate gain, decreased skill cooldown by 1 second. That decreased skill cooldown by 1 second is actually very, very important. Just like in yesterday's video with Baiken, having the decreased skill cooldown really helps if you have like an extra option card that's applying some kind of dot or just adding extra CP. Whenever you're taking away cooldown, having the decreased skill cooldown from a link effect from your striker bonus actually really helps a lot. So I actually pre-recorded the video for you guys so you could check this out. Let's watch this thing. And like I said, guys, you got to play her really carefully whenever you're playing her. Now, you'll notice I'll hit my burn first. We'll get the burn explosion. Then I hit the first skill one time. And I'm just going to hit the third skill and the first skill over and over because I want to keep that dot applied so I can keep using my active skills to decrease this active skill cooldown of my skills, right? And now I'm going to spam the living hell out of my skills, right? I'm just spamming them, spamming them, spamming them. We want to apply a dot here. Well, we got a hit there. No big deal. We'll apply our dot, right? And now, since we got dot applied, we're doing our damage here. We're going to do more damage because we actually have dot applied. Thank you so much. And here we go. And what I did there, the darkness is on the ground, but we hit our hyper armor. And we hit the first skill. We hit the burn. And I just tried to decrease the skill cooldown and then go into my default. And you guys can see, man, with the Sturmy option card, with the Mad Tea Party set, this girl gets it done. She absolutely can murder this guy, which is awesome. Pretty phenomenal. Now here you got a little wacky. Geese went into an iframe, but luckily there was burn applied, right? So we're using our default. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Or I'm sorry, her 3PG. And you see what I did there? Even though I know the darkness is going to get applied, I wanted to make sure that I didn't apply my chill explosion when I hit my skills. Like, that's the thing, guys. Whenever you're playing with this character, you always have to make sure that you're not removing a certain dot. So that way you can always have the decreased skill cooldown. Now, obviously, when you use your awakened skill and you're spamming your skills, it's not going to matter. Then you're going to run through all three of your skills. But whenever your awakened skill's on a long cooldown, you need to do that, especially if you have an extra card on her, an option card on her, where it's actually taking away your cooldown, where you're not getting extra skill cooldown on her. There we go. And you saw what I did there. I applied a little chill. We're going to hit the deep or 3PG. I really do get tongue twisted sometimes because I speak so fast. And there, I didn't apply dot, which royally sucked. Okay, so I'm just going to guard. And I'm going to apply some dot. There we go. There. And I went ahead and used my chill explosion there because I knew I'd reset the first skill. So sometimes, I mean, you'll run through all three skills. You'll do burn first, and then you'll switch back to the first skill and just apply chill or burn, and then go into your 3PG or default. And sometimes you won't. It really depends on what Geese is doing. I mean, before he hits his Raging Storm, you definitely want to be applying some dot before you go into your 3PG or your default. Get it done. Now, right here, man, if I wouldn't have hit my default and I would just spam my skills, we actually would have done more damage. So keep that in mind in this run. It's not perfect. All right, and right there, we weren't even doing any damage because Geese was freaking in his iframe. There we go. Like right there, he's getting ready to do his Raging Storm. We apply a little dot from the first skill. We go into our 3PG. I mean, Dizzy's awesome, guys. She is freaking crazy strong. And the fact that she can, do so good with the Mad Tea Party set. I mean, this set isn't transcended, guys. I don't have any transcended cards on her. And that's something else to keep in mind. If you are planning to do something like this with this character, if you want to put that Sturmy option card on her and you're trying to get the best score possible, let me go ahead and pause. We kind of went a little bit further and try to get the best score possible. Let's see here. So she was able to get 695 million. And if I would have went a little bit further, I could have hit 700 million. He's 714 million for one full key for this character. So, I mean, that's just nuts, guys. With that Mad Tea Party set, that's just nuts. Even at A3, that is crazy. And whenever you're building this character, if this is your go-to girl, and by the way, if you transcend cards, if that's something you plan on doing, I would only do it for your waifus or for your broskies, for your favorite characters in the game, or if you're meta concerned, just put it on the metas. But in KOF, metas change rapidly. Pretty much every time we get an SS or a BS banner or a collaboration banner, metas start changing. So that's not something I would advise people to do. Just, take whatever character that you have or you love, your favorite, and then you want to start transcending your cards for them. And if you don't have the Guilty Gear set, right? Say you don't have the Guilty Gear set, and most of you aren't going to have the Tekken set because you probably haven't been playing this game for over 2 years like me. The Mad Tea Party set is actually going to be quite insane. And if you do decide to transcend this thing, right? If you do decide to transcend these things, if you can get some extra critical rate, that would be nuts. That would be absolutely insane to get some critical rate on this character. Man, there's so many of these things. But I mean, honestly, it's pretty rough, guys. It's pretty rough. But if you can gain critical rate when it's fully leveled up, oh my God. I mean, the difference it would make, especially for the Mad Tea Party set, because the more often she does critical hits, the more critical rate that you have, the more often that Shermie option card is going to proc. The more often it's going to do shock damage. It's going to make it even easier. It's going to melt the bar even faster against Nightmare Geese. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the RNG, as far as getting critical rate on these cards, is pretty tough. It's really, really tough to get critical rate on them. But I mean, you know, something I might try sometime is maybe I'll try to put that Zhongfei card on her, because that does add 4% critical rate. And I'll leave the Shermie option card on her and see how that does. But that's really going to decrease our skill cooldown by a tremendous amount. But it might work. I mean, with her long default and her long 3PG, it might actually work to do that on this character, especially with the decreased skill cooldown by 1 second. I mean, if you don't have any cooldown option cards, I mean, your cooldowns are going to be really, really long. They're going to be, you know, 10 seconds long, and that's a long time, guys. But it might work again because she can reset her first skill. You're going to add a lot of extra CP by having both those cards on her. So that might be something else I might try in the future. But Dizzy really is quite insane. And obviously, if you transcend cards and you add Burn or Chill, that's actually going to be really awesome for Dizzy as well, because it's going to scale up the dot that she already has. So let me know what y'all think about Dizzy getting it done with the Mad Tea Party set non-transcended cards. And I do stream on Twitch at 9 p.m. GMT+7 time. The link is in the description below. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one. See ya.